Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlipp. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. Well, she's game day. She is game day, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday, we looked over the roster for the Seattle Seahawks to kind of give us a general overview of what they have, what they don't have, and whatnot. I want to expand a little bit on that, kind of look at the team a little bit more broadly, some of the extra little points and whatnot that I've come across and some thoughts. After that, I want to take a look across the NFL, and then we're going to move on to calls because we have more than I'm going to be able to do on, last night's Packernet After Dark. So it's also going to be in reverse order, but who cares? So that's what we're going to do today. Oh, and also, as part of this, I suppose as part of the extra exploring, do want to look at playoff implications and whatnot for, the Packers have an opportunity to clinch. The Vikings can clinch. Again, I don't think a lot of this is super necessary. I know some people are very panicked that the Packers may not get into the playoffs. It's possible. I don't know. But I think it'll happen when it happens. So, first of all, we've already gone over the injury report and whatnot. There is a growing speculation on the Jair thing. I think I'm going to, as people start to speculate a little bit more, I'm actually going to back away from that a little bit. Look, the Packers have come out and said that essentially they felt that last time they rushed him back from injury and he got hurt and they don't want to do that again. And apparently the ultimate decider, because I had mentioned that I was a little confused because it was not due to a re-aggravation, and it was not due to anything disciplinary. And I'm struggling to understand what it is that they were seeing. He said he went back and looked at something. Apparently that the thing that he went back and looked at was they kind of were tracking, so I don't know if it was officially GPS or what, but they were tracking his speed, and they could see that his speed was significantly reduced. And my guess is it's more or less what I was saying. He clearly is not playing at a level where he feels comfortable. Even if he says he's not in pain, he either is in pain or he's just not really trusting the security of his body, and so he's not playing as fast as he should. And they're taking that as somewhat of an indication. Number one, he's not going to be playing like his typical Jair self. He's going to go out there and not play well. Number two, the risk of re-injury is going to be higher. And so they decided, we're not going to risk it. We're not going to risk doing what we did last time, which is rush him back, and then he gets injured, and then he's out. He has been for a while now, prolonged. He needs to be 110% back. Now, is it possible there's more to the story? Yes. But I think the explanation, in my opinion now that I understand the story more fully, I think it's I don't see any holes in it anymore. Really, it just comes down to, are they lying or not? And there's no real reason to believe that they are. I mean, if we're going to go down that rabbit hole, we could say that about anything and anyone. Maybe Edgerrin Cooper's a real problem. We can get into stupid stuff. So, disappointing, obviously, that he's not out there. But I think every single one of us would agree, regardless of our stance on what we need to do in the future, which I don't even think there's too much disagreement on that. Regardless of all that, I think everyone would agree, please don't rush him back. Let him get fully healthy and make sure he's ready for our final push through the end. Some of the people I saw that were commenting on this, as far as, let's make sure he gets healthy. We need to wait and everything. The concern was, well, we're not in the playoffs yet, and so it'd be nice to have him back. And I agree. But I think even if, let's just say 100%, if he doesn't come back, we're going to lose this game. But if he does, there's a high risk of re-injury. Should we bring him back? I understand that if we lose the game to Seattle, our chances of not making the playoffs obviously go up. But I would rather have him potentially, probably after this game for the final push, because it's not going to take very much to get over the hump and to get into the playoffs. Especially since us getting in is not even entirely up to us winning out. It has to do with other teams kind of starting to really put the foot on the gas. So if any of them start stumbling, it's not going to impact our chances all that much. So even if the concern is, well, we need him back now to get into the playoffs, right? But if we come back now, and even if he helps us win and he gets injured, our chances of not getting in, not having him, not only not in the playoffs, but over these next couple games, to me, that's a higher risk. I want him back for the Vikings. I want him back for the Bears. And very importantly, I want him back for the playoffs. So there you go. I think we've already briefly touched on this, but I just want to remind everybody how big of a game this is for Seattle. So I don't know. I wish they would give me more detail. They were down at one point. I don't know when this was. This must have been, the last 5 weeks. So 5 weeks ago, do you know what Seattle's chances of making the playoffs were? 6% 5 weeks ago. They are now up to 60%. So this is a revitalized team that has done absolutely everything, gone on an absolute run, on a tear. Things are not necessarily going great, as I told you. A lot of guys are not playing up to what they have been. The quarterback's playing real well. He's playing great Geno ball. The wide receivers have taken, a solid one step backward. Issues on the offensive line, etc. But man, you can credit the coaching staff and the quarterback and everything for kind of stabilizing things. But you also have to acknowledge the emergence of Jackson Smith and Jigba has certainly helped this team kind of explode. Now, the hope is when things like that happen, the more tape you get on it, the more somebody's going to figure it out, and somebody's going to make some adjustments to kind of slow that down. The question is Hafley going to be that dude? And it's, as I've said before, I'm a little bit nervous because when you look at a slot guy, and I mean, granted, I do think Keyshawn's going to be in the slot, which is probably best case scenario. We're going to be forced into that situation because without having Bullard and without having Jair, you have to assume it's going to be Stokes and Valentine on the boundary, which puts Keyshawn in the slot. So that actually may be a slight benefit. But also you just think about the slot guys kind of, they can run all the different routes, but generally attacking the middle of the field and whatnot, it's a little scary, running these little crossing routes and little slant routes, especially now that they know that that's somewhat of a weakness, or at least has been. You would assume you're going to try to put your best player in the weakest spot on the other team's, team or whatever. But as I mentioned before, this is a pretty big game. They're at 60%. That's a decent spot to be in. If they win, though, they go up to 76%. This is via New York Times. They run 10,000 simulations or whatever, so that's how they come to these numbers. A win puts them at 76%, and a loss puts them at 48%. So you can either be less than likely to get in or very likely to get in. Now, I've briefly mentioned this before. Really, the game that matters is their last game against the Rams. If they win that game, regardless of everything else, 93% chance they get in. If they lose that game, it's a 34% chance. So it's going to be this is the second most important game. But bottom line is, look, Seattle is fighting for their lives. They have been fighting. They clawed their way back. I mean, this is a scrappy team that has put everything they have into this. They've been battling through injuries. We kind of went through it. It used to be this guy, then it was this guy, then it was this guy, offensive lineman. Like a lot of other teams, it's a war of attrition. But their core is still here, and they're playing good football. And I mentioned the pass rushers aren't graded well, but the stats are really good. I mean, they've got a team that can put up a fight, and we got to go on the road across the country. It does look like the weather is going to lighten up a little bit. I've been mentioning perspiration, some rain. I just checked. It is not only unlikely at this point, it's currently sitting at 0%. So might be a little cloudy, some light wind, but overall pretty mild. When you factor in, it's been, with the wind chill below zero here in Wisconsin for several days now. Going out there where it's going to be 45 degrees with a light breeze, that's basically spring weather. I mean, that's okay, good. I can throw on like a sweatshirt or something, but I'm fine. Honestly, right now, if it was 45 degrees, I'd probably just go out in a t-shirt. For the Packers, though, this is basically a clinching game. I don't think it's at 100%. I'll go through the exact criteria, but just to be clear, looking at the situation, if the Seahawks win this game, the Packers' odds of making the playoffs, again, it becomes harder. It's 95%. If the Packers lose this game, 95% that they will be in the playoffs. If they lose to the Saints after that, it's 83% that they get into the playoffs. If they lose to the Vikings, they're down to 70% chance. It's only if they go all the way out, we drop down to a 28% chance. If we go 0 for 4 over these next several games, just to put this in complete perspective. Now, again, I'm going to start getting nervous if we lose to the Seahawks, no doubt, but I just want to make sure we're very clear on that. Now, if we beat the Packers, it is not, or excuse, if we beat the Packers, if we beat the Seahawks, it is not 100%, but it is greater than 99%. So we're talking 99 point some odd percent if we win this game. The official clinching, no, but basically. And actually, I'm wrong about that because one of the games already happened. We needed the Rams to lose, so they can't clinch this week. So when I say that if the Packers win this game, it's a better than 99% chance to get in, let me further clarify that. If the Packers win this game and lose out the rest of the season, there's a 95% chance we're in the playoffs. That's what almost 100% means. Let me put it another way for you. And I know people are going to start yelling at me if things start to get dark, but I'm just giving you mathematical numbers. I would say there's maybe one easy game, possibly two, depending on your opinion of the Bears. Bears played us real tough last time. What if the only team we are able to beat is the Saints? We lose to the Seahawks, we beat the Saints, we lose to the Vikings, we lose to the Bears. Take a guess. 79% chance we're in the playoffs if we lose 3 out of 4 with the Saints being the only team we beat. What if the only team we beat is the Bears? We have as it's settling here, 79% chance. We lose to the Seahawks, lose to the Saints, lose to the Vikings, but beat the Bears because that's what we do. 79% chance in that scenario we're in the playoffs. If the only team we beat is the Vikings, it's 78%. Now, again, this is obviously the most important because the Seahawks are one of the teams that would be challenging us. So to put this even more succinctly, this is the most important game we have for the rest of the season. If we win this, no matter what happens, we have a 95% chance. If we lose out after this game, 95% chance. If we just forfeit the rest of the season and we say, no, we're just going to rest our guys, we're not even going to play the next 3 games, 95% chance if we win this game. That is to say, there's a 95% chance that the rest of the teams that could possibly threaten us will not be able to do what is necessary to essentially get us out of the playoffs. I know it doesn't feel that way because it's like, well, you're only a 9-win team. It's not the greatest thing in the world. 9-4 is nice, but you lose again 9-5. I mean, it doesn't feel very good, especially when other teams like Detroit and the Chiefs, who are the most fraudulent garbage team in the world. All these teams have really great records. The Vikings have a great record, and here we are, this piddly 9-4 team. If we lose, we're 9-5. Just feels terrible. Feels like there's no chance. What I'm telling you is that's not the reality. And I'm not trying to bring down the temperature of the game at all. Keep that intensity up. I'm hoping I can bring down the anxiety of the game. Enjoy the football game. All right. All right, let's run through some stuff here. NFL Pro does a lot of the heavy lifting for me here, looking at some of the detailed stats and breakdowns and advanced things that they have access to. So why don't we go ahead and rip through a couple of these. First of all, if you didn't know, it's a Sunday night game. This is we've got several primetime games. We had 2 Thursday games. We got a Sunday night, and then I think next week is a Monday night. So a lot of lights, camera action for the Green Bay Packers. Points per game, Packers are 7th, Seahawks are 14th. Point differential, Packers are plus 75, which is 7th. The Seahawks are plus 19, which is 14th. Record in close games, the Seahawks are 4-1. Remember, close games are essentially a luck metric, so the Seahawks have erred much more on the side of luck in those games. If you're talking 5 games, you're looking at 2 to 3 wins. They have 4. Packers are 5-3, a little bit in the luck, but not much. It's 1 game. Average margin of victory. Packers, 10.6 points, which is 14th. Seahawks, 10, which is 17th. Turnover differential. Packers are plus 9, which is 5th. The Seahawks are minus 4, which is 21st. Total penalties. Packers, 89, which ranks 24th. But the Seahawks are 97, which ranks 29th. So even the one area where the Packers are really bad, penalties, the Seahawks have been worse. They have sort of an overall advantage thing for sort of general stats or whatever. Overall passing efficiency. Packers offense ranks 8th. Seahawks defense is 9th, so they say there's really no advantage there. Pressure rate, Packers offense is 10th at preventing it. The Seahawks are 11th at getting it, so no advantage. Then you have overall rushing efficiency. The Packers have the 5th best rushing efficiency offense. The Seahawks are 26th at rushing efficiency as far as defense. So that is a relatively sizable advantage for the Green Bay Packers. On the other side, when you look at pressure rate, the Seahawks rank 21st at stopping pressure, but the Packers are 29th in generating it. They're awful at generating pressure, which is a slight advantage. Seahawks. Overall passing efficiency. The Seahawks offense ranks 18th. The Packers defense is 11th. That is advantage Packers. Overall rushing efficiency. The Seahawks offense is 25th in rushing. The Packers defense is 10th in rushing, which is a sizable Packers advantage. They've got that broke down much more in terms of a bunch of other categories, but if we just go to key advantages, these are the ones where the teams have the biggest advantage. There are 3 for the Seahawks, and that is, as far as the Seahawks offense, passing versus blitz. The Seahawks are 15th when it comes to passing against the blitz. The Packers are 30th. So the blitzing, apparently, according to NFL Pro, has been a complete freaking disaster. Intermediate passing. This is for the Packers offense. The Packers offense on intermediate passing ranks 20th. The Seahawks defense is 5th. And then play action is another one. Passing when there's no play action. The Seahawks have the number 1 defense against passing when there's no play action. The Packers are 14th. Now, on the complete opposite side of that, the Packers are the 3rd best passing team with play action. The Seahawks are 31st in stopping play action passes. So when we run play action, it is, I think, the biggest advantage. It's the only, they rate it by stars. It's the only 5-star advantage. 3rd best passing team. They are the 2nd worst passing defense against play action. That's the best thing there. Factor in that the Packers have a rushing advantage. The formula to me seems relatively simple, at least as far as our offense. Run the ball, because we should have an advantage there, and then run play action. When you look at another big advantage for the Packers on offense, rushing versus a light box. So if they don't stack the box, or I guess if they have one less guy there, the Packers are 6th best. The Seahawks are 29th. Now, what that likely means is they're going to have to bring extra guys, because if they don't, they can't stop the run, which is probably why they're susceptible to play action so much. And then on designed runs, the Packers have the 6th best offense. The Seahawks have the 25th best defense. Looking at Seahawks on offense, the other, so they had the one advantage, which is passing versus the blitz. The other 4 are Packers' advantage. The smallest 2 of the advantages, passing versus pressure. The Seahawks, when there's pressure, are 22nd. The Packers are 7th. Rushing outside of the tackles, the Seahawks are 28th. The Packers' defense is 13th. The 2 bigger advantages, passing when there's no blitz, Seahawks 18th, Packers 3rd. I would not have guessed any of this, by the way. I mean, some of it I would. The blitzing pressure thing, I'm a little surprised by that. My entire contention has been when we don't blitz, it's a problem. We very rarely blitz. You've heard me say that. We only generate pressure when we blitz, and we never blitz. I think the missing component there is, what is the end result of the play? Because you can generate a pressure, the guy rolls out of the box and throws a touchdown pass. So this sort of makes sense in terms of why we don't blitz very often, because apparently when we don't bring anybody extra, even though the guys up front aren't very good at generating pressure, the end result on these plays ends up being not much. 3rd best defense when there is no blitz. And then finally, rushing versus stacked box. So when we load up the box, the Seahawks are the 29th best team in running into a loaded box. The Packers are the 9th best defense. So those are the biggest advantages. 3 of them are for the Seahawks. 7 of them are toward the Packers. Some of the next-gen stats, keys to the game. Josh Jacobs is the first player to have 7 rushing touchdowns over a 3-game span since Jonathan Taylor in 2021. I feel like that can't be true. But that's absolutely crazy. Jackson Smith and Jigba is one of only 4 players in the NFL with at least 75 receptions, 900 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns in 2024. The others are Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and CeeDee Lamb. The Packers' losses have been to opponents with a combined record of 44-6. This is the highest by any team with at least 4 losses in a season since 1929 Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. Now, I saw this stat before. I've seen a couple of these. NFL Pro puts out some great stuff, so you keep seeing them all over social media. This one I want to sit on for a minute. I don't want to just brush past how important that is. There a lot of the people there's always the glass half full, glass half empty people, right? A lot of the glass half empty negative Packer fans have really sat on the fact that the Packers haven't beat the good teams, the great teams. I want to read that stat again real quick and just see if you can possibly see the glass half full situation that we're dealing with here. The Packers' losses have been to opponents with a combined record of 46-6, which is the highest by any team with at least 4 losses, because if you figure if you've only lost to one team, whatever. The highest with any team with at least 4 losses in a season since the 1929 Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. What does that mean? On one hand, yes, it's true. All of the absolute best teams, the ones that have like 1 or 2 losses the entire season, we haven't beaten those teams. We've only done it, I think, like 3 times. We lost all 3 of them. Something like that. I'm kind of making that. Well, there's obviously 4. It's what it says. But there's 2 sides to this coin. Number one is how unbelievably good the teams are that we lost to, which really, yes, you can be pissed about it and say, well, you haven't beaten those. Okay, fair enough. But let's not undersell how unbelievably good these teams are. The second side of that coin is, the other side in terms of how you get a record like this is not losing to any teams that aren't elite. You cannot, that's why this record doesn't ever happen. Hasn't happened since 29. Because it's such an unbelievably rare situation for both things. Number one, to go up against 4 absolute powerhouses in a season. And number 2, to lose 0 games to any teams that aren't absolute powerhouses. That's why this record exists. So it shouldn't be that hard to see the glass half full. Yes, it would have been nice to beat the Lions that one time, which again, if you're pissing and moaning about that, I still don't understand this. And I know I've said this before. Let me say it one more time. I don't know how we can simultaneously say the Packers aren't good enough because they didn't beat the Lions. However, we also acknowledge that if the refs had called this game right, they would have won it. I'm not saying they should have been. Regardless of all of that, you cannot say they're not good enough in a 3-point loss, which any game that's a 3-point loss is basically a coin toss. It means it could have gone either way. In a 3-point loss in which the refs were very heavily in favor of the other team, and we played in Detroit. To pretend that we can't beat those teams is stupid. The takeaway from that is, yes, we are as good. Who actually won it is somewhat immaterial, depending on the question you're asking. So, are the Packers good enough to beat these teams? Yes, they are. They haven't, which is more, like flipping a coin 4 times and it comes up heads 4 times in a row. It has more to do with luck than anything. I think the more shocking thing when you look at it is the fact that the Packers have not lost a single game to a team that isn't elite. If you're not elite, get out of my face. You're not good enough. You want to hear something kind of funny about that? When you look at the teams that the Packers have lost to and the teams that the Lions have lost to, the teams that the Lions have lost to have more losses than the teams the Packers have lost to. The Lions lost 1 game to Tampa. Tampa lost 6 games. All the 4 teams that we lost to have lost a combined 4 games. I don't exactly know what this team is, but if there are moments when you look at things and you just kind of sit back in your chair and go, holy crap. It's like one of those, what is that meme? It's like, oh my Lord, it's Jason Bourne or something like that. I've just over the last week, there have been a couple times I've looked at it, and this stat was maybe the biggest one for me, where I look and just go, holy crap, this is a good team. The record isn't what the Lions have. But when you factor in all the luck components, I don't know that they aren't on that same tier. The Lions have a higher record than they should have, right? We've gone over that. They're high on the luck scale. Isn't to say that they aren't good. That's not the point. The point is that their record is higher than what it should be. A lot of games come down to coin tosses, and sometimes you get more favorable things. Sometimes you get less favorable things. That's going to happen. They've had more favorable things this year. But I think the record being what it is, as well as some of the dysfunction with the injuries to Jordan, with the injuries to Jair, and with the being upset with certain things that just aren't working, Jordan in particular with the interceptions, like something's wrong, something feels off. I feel like something has been happening this year, and we just haven't seen it because we've been so focused on the wrong things. That stat is shocking. It's not... Just to be very clear, because, again, the glass half full people like to phrase things in a way that are a little more negative than it should be. It's not true that the Packers haven't beat any good teams. That's not true. They have beat plenty of good teams. Is that the teams they haven't beat are mega super elite teams. Like, I've already gone over the Detroit Lions, and I hate to say it, but when you go over DVOA and all that stuff, this is arguably one of the better teams that DVOA at least has ever seen. Now, these aren't seasonally adjusted, but it doesn't matter. We're talking a top 5 team ever via DVOA right now. So to pretend that like the Lions are just like good, and the Vikings are just kind of like, they're good, I guess. But then the only teams that we beat are these bad teams. That's wildly inaccurate. That's not true. The only teams they haven't beat are teams that are shockingly good at football. Anyways, moving on. Josh Jacobs has rushed between the tackles on 63.6% of his carries this season, the highest rate of his entire career. As a result, Jacobs leads the NFL in rushing yards between the tackles in 2024 with 731. His 731 such yards are the most by any Packers running back in a single season in the next-gen stats era, which goes back to 2016. The Seahawks have allowed 5 yards per carry to inside rushes this season, which is the second most in the NFL. Are you getting the picture yet? Has this become crystal clear to you? So the Packers have decided to keep Josh Jacobs running between the tackles more so than he did at any point in his career with the Raiders, right? That's just how we do things. That's how they want to utilize Josh Jacobs, up the gut and in your frickin' face, okay? He has more yards than anybody doing that in the NFL right now. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to smash him right down your face. We're not going to get cute with it. We're not going to throw him a little screen pass off to the outside. We're not going to try to get him around people No, we're coming right down your throat, okay? The Seahawks are the second worst team at that. And again, why are they so susceptible to play action? Because they're so bad at stopping the run that they come crashing down real hard. This is the game plan. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. And by the way, you want to know if there's immediate trouble in this game? If we try to run the ball and can't. Immediately it's, oh shoot, this is not good. Because this is the game plan. Run the ball down their throat, kill them with play action. Back to Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs has forced 84 missed tackles this season, second most in the NFL, and just one behind Bijan Robinson. What a freak that guy is. League-leading 85 missed tackles forced. Jacobs has generated 449 yards after missed tackles in 2024. Think about that. 450 yards that came by way of just making people miss. That's crazy. It's the 5th most in the league right now. Since entering the NFL in 2019, Jacobs has forced 475 missed tackles, which is 67 more than the next closest player, David Montgomery at 408, and trailing only Derrick Henry's 522. Something interesting to note here about the running back for the Seattle Seahawks, Zach Charbonnet. It's about Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet, but Walker's not playing. So it says Kenneth Walker has been contacted behind the line of scrimmage at the highest rate among running backs with at least 75 carries this season, 54.4% of the time, but has forced a missed tackle on 36.6% of his rushes, which is the second highest. That's Kenneth Walker. Walker's also averaged 0.5 yards before contact per carry, the 7th fewest among the same group of running backs, and the fewest in his career. Zach Charbonnet has been contacted behind the line of scrimmage at the 6th highest rate, 50.5%, but has been much more physical than elusive, recovering the 5th most yards after contact per carry. As a team, the Seahawks running backs have been contacted behind the line of scrimmage 52.6% of carries, second highest in the NFL. The Packers' defense has allowed just 1.1 yards before contact per rush, which is the 5th fewest in the NFL. It's a very good opportunity to shut down the run here if we can just wrap up and tackle. This offensive line is terrible. These guys are getting no yards before carry. Essentially, they're immediately contacted. There's no push. We have to just wrap up and tackle. The Packers have done a very good job of that, as they mentioned, the 5th fewest yards before contact. Very good at getting there early. Great. Get there early, bring them down. There's about 500 more of these if you're curious, but I'll just stop it there. Why don't we take a break? Again, on the other side, we got 2 goals. I want to look at the rest of the games for Sunday, and might as well do Monday because I probably won't talk about it. And then we'll get to some calls. Take a break. We'll be right back. So first off, we got the Dallas Cowboys and the Carolina Panthers. I'm very, very happy the situation that we're in, the fact that this is completely irrelevant. The Dallas Cowboys shockingly sitting at 5-8 right now. They are the 13th seed right now in the NFC. Neither the Cowboys or Panthers are officially eliminated somehow, but presumably will be momentarily here. In fact, this game actually is for the elimination, if I'm not mistaken. So this could be the funniest thing ever if Dallas loses. Dallas could officially be eliminated from the playoffs by the Carolina Panthers. I'm not positive about that. I'm just using the simulator, and both teams drop to 0% when I switch it. The only NFC team so far that is officially eliminated is the New York Giants, but that would be the absolute funniest thing in the world if the Carolina Panthers went on to beat the Dallas Cowboys, keeping their odds at basically 0% and eliminating Dallas. Oh, I hope that happens. That would just be too funny to pass up. Kansas City and Cleveland is actually somewhat of an interesting game. The 3-10 Cleveland Browns, I would have assumed Kansas City was, 15-point favorites. They're only 4-point favorites in this game. And when I looked at our model for betting and whatnot, there is the DVOA model and the ELO model, the ELO, LO, I forget. Both of them say that Kansas City is overrated in this game. The ELO model has Kansas City as a 1-point favorite. The DVOA model has it basically at 0. It's Kansas City at 0.04. I can't help but assume that this really goes to show how much of a freaking paper tiger the Kansas City Chiefs are. I expect them to win, and I'm sure they're going to cover. I bet on the Cleveland Browns anyways because I'm going to go ahead and trust this to cover, not win. But granted, part of that comes down to the Chiefs seem to be winning by field goals every single time, so 4 is actually a pretty scary number to bet on the Kansas City Chiefs. But, I mean, the Cleveland Browns are a 3-10 football team, and you're 4-point favorites. You suck, dude. The Chiefs have a plus 5.4 margin of victory through 13 games, which is the lowest average margin of victory among all 221 teams in the NFL to win at least 12 games in a season. You want to talk about the luckiest team ever? I swear if this team goes on to win the Super Bowl, I quit. Chiefs have won 15 consecutive one-possession games, which is the longest winning streak in one-possession games in NFL history. The Chiefs' last 1-second loss was in Week 16 of 2023 against the Raiders on Christmas Day. My goodness. Miami and Houston is only interesting if you're paying attention to the AFC. Miami trying to stay alive at 6-7. Their odds are obviously dwindling. Houston Texans at 8-5, obviously in the same situation, trying to keep their playoff dreams alive. Houston in much better position right now. They have been stumbling and bumbling a little bit, but they're currently at 96% to get in. Miami at just 16%. They had a little spike in their odds, and then they met the Packers and everything fell apart. Jets, Jaguars, I don't think it could get any less interesting than that. It's another game I did bet on the Jets in this game. Probably, it's one of those things like betting on the Bears. You never really want to do it because they always underperform. So all the metrics and models are going to be like, oh yeah, they should definitely get this many points. And then they don't. And it's like, yeah, that was stupid. Shouldn't have done that. But yeah, 2-3 win teams, give me a break. The Jets, hilariously already eliminated from playoff contention. It doesn't get any funnier than that. Jaguars also. So who absolutely cares? Washington, New Orleans is also somewhat interesting. Washington right now, 91% chance of getting into the playoffs. Remember, you got the 4 teams that are going to win the division, which actually they're probably... It's very funny because there are some teams, their only chance of getting into the playoffs is not the wild card, which is usually what people are fighting for. You're trying to get those wild card spots. Those are essentially locked up by teams that are better than you that you're not going to catch. That's why Washington and Green Bay and Minnesota have like 100% chances of getting into the playoffs. They're so far ahead. So teams like Seattle, they're not trying to catch up to us. They're trying to win their division so that they can get those spots. So Washington is sort of that tail end at 8-5. They're trying to hold down the fort and keep everybody else away from us. I don't think we necessarily gain anything by them losing. I suppose there's a chance that they could end up overtaking us and we get the 7th seed and they get the 6th. So from that standpoint, you'd be rooting for the Saints. On the other hand, I'm always very worried about, similar to what we have this week, similar to what we have with Miami. Miami blew out a team before we played them, and it's like, oh, crap, and then we beat them. Seattle Seahawks exploded. I mean, they've been very good for a while. This past week, they just absolutely exploded, and it becomes scary. I don't want the Saints to do that. So I think either way is going to be somewhat of a win. If the Saints beat Washington, it kind of secures our number 6 seed a little bit. If Washington beats the Saints, they don't really have very many playoff aspirations as it is, but seeing a bad Saints team just make me feel a little bit better. Giants, Baltimore, I don't care. Cincinnati, Tennessee, I don't care. New England, Arizona, I guess we could say you want New England to beat Arizona, but Arizona's sitting at a 5% chance right now. And again, the 5% is that they win their division. They're looking to beat the Seahawks. They're not looking to take our spot, so it just doesn't really matter. If anything, you want the Cardinals to be a good football team, although they already played the Seahawks twice, but whatever, to start beating down their other opponents. Indianapolis and Denver does not matter to me at all. Buffalo and Detroit is obviously a massive one. Not for any other reason than I need Detroit to lose. It just has to happen. I am very pleased to report that both the ELO and the DVOA models have Buffalo winning, but by a very narrow margin, 1.2 points and 1.7 points, and that is with the home field advantage going toward Detroit. So I did put a little bit on Buffalo for that reason because Detroit is favored in this game. So we'll see what happens, but according to the 2 different models, they like Buffalo a little bit more than Detroit. Buffalo does have Rasul Douglas out in this game. I've mentioned he's not the greatest cornerback, but it always hurts because he's a starter, and not having a starter is going to be pretty bad. In addition, they've got 3, 6, 8 questionable players: Damar Hamlin, Taylor Rapp, Casey Toohill, Tylen Grable, Dalton Kincaid, Quentin Morris, Dwayne Smoot, and Balin Spector. Some of those obviously more impactful than others, but all of them questionable. For the Lions, the only person out is Trevor Nowaski, linebacker, which seems like they're very healthy, but at the same time, as we know, they're not. And the linebackers have been a very serious issue for them, so just having any other linebacker out is going to suck. I'm not going to dig any further into that, but that's what you're looking at in that game. Tampa Bay and the Chargers, I'm going to be pulling for the Chargers in that game just because, again, if you look at that very, very outside shot that a team is going to come in and overtake us, the Buccaneers are leading their division at 7-6, so they're 2 games behind us. They've been on an absolute roll lately. They're a 72% chance of making the playoffs. I couldn't care less who wins that division, but you want those top teams, the 7-win, 8-win teams, to start getting some losses. One more loss for the Bucs, and they're not done, but as far as any chance of sneaking in those wild cards or whatever, which, by the way, even if they did overtake us as a record, odds are they're going to just end up winning the division, so it's not going to matter. But still, I would rather, just to be comfortable, having Tampa Bay lose that game. Pittsburgh, Philly, obviously I want Philly to lose. They're both, 10-3 compared to 11-2 for Philly. But Philly being an NFC team, I don't like them. I don't want them to succeed. I don't want them to win. I don't want them to be good. So there's that. Green Bay, Seattle, obviously we know. And then Chicago, Minnesota. This is a very simple, we're rooting for Chicago, but they're not going to win. Been rooting for Chicago basically for like 4 or 5 weeks in a row, and they continue to let me down just like they do their own fan base. They are a pathetic joke of an organization. Guard Ryan Bates, defensive tackle Javon Dexter, who's actually been quite good for them. Roshan Johnson, all out. DeAndre Swift also questionable. He hasn't really practiced. So that's a pretty serious situation. When you're already down and out, you lose a critical defensive tackle. You might be without your running back. You are out Roschon Johnson, which is another running back. And then Ryan Bates, I believe he's a backup. I don't even know him. He might not be because they got rid of the other guy. What's his name? Doesn't matter. They're going to get absolutely freaking wrecked in this game. Stephon Gilmore is questionable as the only injury concern for the Minnesota Vikings. So that's going to be over by freaking halftime. Hope I'm wrong, but I have no hope in that game. Falcons Raiders. The Falcons are a 6-win team. It's one of those things where, if we lose, they drop to a 95% chance because if the Falcons go on an undefeated run or something stupid. I'll root for the Raiders. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. But all right, there you go. There's the games. Again, they become less and less important as we go, but it's what you do. You look at other games. All right, let's let me push a button here. Bing, bang, boom. Let's take a couple calls. I want to try to whittle these down a little bit to make sure that we can get all of them when I do Packernet After Dark. We'll get started with Jeff in Kansas City.
Ryan, it's been a few days, almost a week now since the Lions game. And, I'm kind of over it. We played, I think, probably the best team in the league to 3 points. Probably should have won that game. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, whatever. Now it's just about moving forward, playing Seattle.
Yep.
Taking care of business. Next game, take care of business. I think, if anything, that'll light a fire underneath this team, get them going for the stretch run. I live in Kansas City, and, everybody's talking big bad Chiefs and all this thing. And I've got a buddy who just won't stop with how great the Chiefs are, all this stuff. And, man, I just don't see it. People talk about Buffalo. I'm really looking forward to this Buffalo-Lions game. I think Lions are probably going to dog walk them.
I hope so.
I don't think it's going to be close. I just keep on hearing in Kansas City about this three-peat. I'm really tired of it. And for the most part, obviously I want to see a Packers Super Bowl, but I don't care who it is, as long as if the Chiefs get there, they just beat the shit out of them. All right, that's all I got, Ryan. Thanks, man.
Yeah, it's good timing bringing that up. Obviously, you're over there in Kansas City, so you probably have to deal with that a lot more than somebody up in Wisconsin. Look, there's two conflicting things in my head. Number one is Paper Dragon, like I said, Paper Tiger, whatever you want to call it. They are the most flimsy, lucky, bullcrap team. Pat Mahomes is not playing well. Nothing's going well. On the other hand, they have a great record. They're going to be in the playoffs, and they have a track record of, when the playoffs come, they really rev it up. And beyond that, just finding ways to win football games and everything else. I don't know, man. I certainly don't see it. It's the same freaking teams that lose to them in the playoffs every time anyways. Buffalo and Baltimore and same crap that just cannot beat this team. But they got to do it. I'm over it. I'm ready for the 3-win Browns to beat them. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but I hope they at least keep it close so everybody can see, look at this. Look at this. A field goal win against a 3-win Browns team. Look, there are similarities to other Chiefs teams where you look at it and say they're not that good and they win these close games and everything else. But there are some things that are not similar, and some of the not similar things are the Chiefs have also had a track record of obliterating teams, and they really have not been doing that lately. So I do think something is dying there in Kansas City, and I'm ready for it to just flame out. Look, they got a good coach, they got a good quarterback, but a lot of what they had is been diminished. I don't think they've done a good job of draft and develop at all. Back when they had Dorsey there and they had a bunch of great people that they drafted, obviously one of them being Pat Mahomes. I think once Dorsey left, it's been very questionable. They've had some hits, no question about it, Creed Humphrey and whatnot, but you've seen more people leave than come in. Tyreek Hill is gone. They were able to manage that. Their tight end cannot wait for him to be gone. He's like 500 years old. It's just a lot of that core is leaving. And then, of course, every year the NFL begins to evolve, you got to hope one of these years Andy Reid's going to start to put his feet up a little bit. You know what I mean? He's obviously a very intelligent guy. They play a really good style brand of football. It's a great combination with him and Pat Mahomes, but something's not clicking like it used to. And the more they lose players and the more the NFL evolves into something that can combat the Chiefs style of football, I think we'll be heading in that direction. But you got to just wait. It's similar to the Lions. You're just waiting for that one thing to snap, right? Right now, we just need them to be eliminated from the playoffs. Once that happens, it's like, okay, we broke that frickin' chain. Same with the Lions. Like, they just keep winning and winning and winning and winning. If they lose, it doesn't really mean anything, but it just breaks that chain that has been continuing, and you need that. You got to have that thing that just breaks the momentum and says, okay, you're not perfect. You're not immune. You can't continue forever. As I've said before, it's like the 300 thing. You got to prove to them that they're not a god, that they can bleed. That's what we need from these teams. So the Lions need to lose to Buffalo, and I would love to see the Chiefs lose sometime soon. Do I think it's going to be to the Cleveland Browns? No. But it is shocking from an analytical standpoint to look at it and go, I don't know. It's going to be close. How is it close? How can a 12-1 team be close to a 3-win team? This should be one of those things where the Chiefs line is like minus 15.5. It's not. It's not. They're at -4 according to Vegas, -4, and according to the models that we have, it's a little generous to the Chiefs. That's crazy.
Hey, this is just Mike. Thanks, Ryan. I did need to vent. Yeah, so we're on to the Seahawks. These sea chickens, huh? I'm not too worried about them. They're just squawking about with a little bit of an old Geno Smith who, quite frankly, years ago, when the Giants drafted Saquon Barkley, I was saying that he should have been the starting quarterback, and I'm pretty sure it was Ben McAdoo who started him and then supremely got cut afterwards. Shouldn't have happened. Geno Smith could have made that a really good team. He's doing a pretty good job with the Seahawks. DK Metcalf is a guy. Jair Alexander not being there is not so great for us. There's just some things we got to be concerned about. We really do. I'm liking the resurgence of Rashawn Gary. He's really been putting it on lately. Lucas Van Ness is coming through. I'm liking some things. The linebackers got to get it figured out. We're really missing edge. We're really missing Edwin Cooper. Man, I want him back. Yeah. I don't like watching Isaiah McDuffie out there. I don't like watching Eric Wilson out there at all. Anybody can argue with me, but I like Quay. Quay is a dude. Quay is a good dude. He's a solid dude, man. Quay is just somebody that I think we can rely on, and we just need to trust the process. Trust the process with him. If anybody says we don't need to extend the option to him, I think we do. I think we need to keep this guy on our team. He is the mic for a reason. I was questioning him early in the season, but clearly I do not know ball like I do. Maybe it's this whole Halfley thing. We've got to give Quay an opportunity. He's been screwed. He had Joe Barry as the guy telling him how to play football, and he just finally got under Jeff Halfley. So let's be real. We had to undo some things to get to where we are. Quay is looking physical. Quay is looking violent. Quay is looking like he can stop some things. Quay is the one who got Jahmyr Gibbs down on 4th down. And that's the kind of sideline-to-sideline guy Quay is. Man, I got to get a Quay jersey because y'all don't believe in him and I don't care. Anyway, so what's the keys to success against the Seahawks team? Just go out there and play football. We don't have to play them like the Lions. We don't have to play them that physical way. Just go out there as a team, execute, do your job. Let's get ourselves on track so we can get ourselves in the right headspace and just execute game after game after game. Anyway, go Pack, go.
Yeah, I mean, Quay's stepped it up a lot in the run defense category. The coverage has been a problem, but the blitzing in the run defense has definitely changed the conversation for me on Quay. Again, anytime somebody underperforms, everybody's solution is get rid of them. Okay, well, the problem is we just now have a massive void there. And again, there's no button to push that just says fix it. All right, get rid of him and then push the fix it button, and then we have a new linebacker and everything's fixed. Now that we're in this situation, it kind of becomes a question of, is there a price? You know, am I going to pay him a premium? No, of course not. But I don't think he's going to command that in the market. So as long as there's a reasonable price, and I think that there will be, because I don't think anyone's going to be jumping, hopping fences to come over and get this guy. I think they'll be able to come to some kind of an agreement on a reasonable, low-cost price, which could work absolutely to our benefit, because the hope is, as you kind of alluded to, that he's going to continue to grow under Hafley, and he could become much better than what we pay him under his contract. And who knows, maybe they're interested in, because of that, Quay and the Packers would think a short-term, low contract, maybe a 2-year or something thing, because Quay is going to bet on himself, and the Packers are going to look to, give him an opportunity, but be willing to get out of it almost immediately. But yeah, I think that would be my hope, is that they come to a short-term, low-cost agreement just to kind of see how it goes, because I do think at this point, which is different than what I've said maybe 5-6 weeks ago, I do think the defense is better with Quay. But you also mentioned Edgerrin, and I think that's an important piece, because I think when Edgerrin's on the field, we can put people where they belong. When guys are missing, you have to kind of do some patchwork stuff, and you put people maybe where they shouldn't be playing. When we have all our linebackers there, we're able to put them where they need to be when they need to be there, and I think that's when we start to see some better results. So we'll see. Edgerrin's going to be back this week, presumably, pending any setbacks. And so hopefully we'll get to see what we were all hoping for, which is a fixing of this massive problem we've had over the last 2 weeks. Because if it continues to get exploited, I don't know what we're going to do, because you're just not going to win games if you can just give up 200 yards in front of the linebacker's face every game. So obviously hoping that getting Edgerrin back is going to make a big difference. And if it does, I weep for the rest of the league, because that's the one thing that I'm looking at that's going, that could be a problem. Other than that, you guys are freaking in trouble.
Yo, Brian.
Hey.
It's your uncle, Rico.
Hello, Uncle.
Oh, I'm just working late here, catching up on some of the After Darks. And,
Rico?
Some people are just, I hope some of the calls were directly after the game and there was alcohol involved. Cause, I mean, I get it. It's frustrating when you see things that could have went better than they did, and you want to point the finger at somebody, but dude, reflect on your own life. Shit never goes like it's supposed to go, in case you didn't notice. That's why I'm still at work. And that's why I've been here 14 hours. It's great. Yay. Anyway, one thing, we and they.
You know what I need to do? Nobody's going to want to do this except me. I need to sit down with the robots. I'm going to get like 4 robots, and we're going to sit down. We're going to have a conversation. By the way, I don't know if you knew this. Google, the AI advancements are just every day there's something new. Google released something that I've been begging for forever, and that is an AI that can basically live time speak with you and can see your computer. So I can sit down. I think it's going to be a little too slow. I haven't tried it yet. I can sit down and have it play, for example, Total War with me, and have it give me strategic and tactical advice. I'm going to try that out. Anyways, I'm going to sit down with the robots, and I want to understand this, because I don't get it. I don't even understand what the heck I'm talking about when it comes to, like, I obviously have a rational side of me, but that part has no control during a football game where I'm just an absolute psychopath. And I say things like, just enjoy the game and you shouldn't be upset. And I say that. I can't do it. I mean, eventually I'll come around to it. The stages are usually, zero part of me understands the rational side. I am angry, I am annoyed, I am upset, I'm all these things, whatever, and I see no positive thing. Everything is, the world is crashing down. Then the rational side starts to see it, but the emotional side is still there. And so I feel like everything sucks and I want to kill everybody, but I think something else, and I know enough to defer to the brain side, you know? It's kind of like bit of a drinker back in college, and somehow I was able to pull this off. I would leave like little notes in my brain reminding me not to do certain things, you know? Because when you're drinking, everything feels like a great idea. And so when you make that decision a bunch of times and every time you wake up and you regret it, sometimes I was able to like implant a thing in my brain that said, I know it feels like this is fine and it's a great idea. Remember, it's not. We know you can't feel it right now. I know that you can't feel it. It doesn't make any sense. How could this possibly be bad? I'll just text her again. She'll be fine. Like she wants, it's no big deal. Don't do it. I don't know why it's a bad idea. I can't feel why it's a bad idea, but I just know deep down somehow when I wake up tomorrow a little bit more rational, I'm going to recognize that was a bad idea. And so I didn't do it. And I stopped doing some of those things. Not all the things, obviously, but some of the things. It's similar to that, where it's, I don't feel anything that I'm saying, but it's true, and I'm just going to say it, and I'm going to pretend that I'm feeling it even though I'm not, because my feelings are irrelevant at that point. So there's the emotional side is the only side. Then there's like the dual side, but I defer to the side that I don't feel and I think is stupid. And then as time goes on, I start to, as the emotion wears off, settle into this other thing. But I don't understand any of that. I don't know. I kind of want to. Kind of want to know what the heck is going on. Why does that happen? Especially over something so stupid. It's a freaking football game. Why do I care so much? I don't know. I don't know any of that stuff.
I get so confused. Okay, you got to lay down the guidelines, right? When a caller when somebody calls in and they refer to the Packers as they, that's not right. It's we. Mm-hmm. The Packers are we. The opponent is they.
Sure.
Has everybody got that? Most people got it right, but you don't. When you're talking about the Packers, you don't say they this and they that. You say we. It's us. True. The Packers, that's the true. Fans, the whole deal. The Packer, what's it called? I forget. The network, that thing. All of us. And they is everybody but the Packers. Okay? Everybody got that? Sure. Good. And then the St. Nick thing. Have you ever seen the movie? I think it's called The Fat Man. The Fat Man. Something like that.
Afraid not.
Mel Gibson and Santa Claus. It's a little darker, it's kind of a...
It's called
the factory, Fat Man? The workshop is more of they contract out to make weapons, or Santa Claus uses his sleigh to run errands for the government or something. I don't know. Okay. It's pretty cool. Yeah, either way.
Sounds great.
Something to maybe watch. Seahawks coming up. I freaking hate the Seahawks ever since, a lot of reasons. Russell Wilson, and ever since that, what were those guys? The replacement referees game where we got shafted on that touchdown, and nobody could just say, you guys got shafted and we won. They're like, no, that was a real touchdown. We won because we're better. Anyways, I hate them. We're going to beat them. It's going to be great. Go back, go. Rico out.
Well, I'm with you on the we thing. I mean, I'm not going to mandate it or anything, but I'm on the we side of that debate for sure. I'm sure I've said they, but I'm a we guy. That's my position. We fans and whatnot. I don't remember the exact context, but I know at one point Rodgers referred to the fans as we, and at that point it was that the debate was over. It was dead. If he identifies with the fans identify with him. We are one. It's getting weird. Uncle Rico, let's make this the final before we get out of here.
Yo, Brian, it's your uncle, Rico.
What's up, man?
I like to listen to Jersey Mike freak out about the kneel down. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Anyways, I comment on the people who are freaking out because the Packers, they're garbage because they lost to the Lions. I don't think they know who the Lions are. I think they think they want the Lions who they want. They want the Lions to be who we want them to be, but they're not that anymore. Right. At least currently, they're not the Lions from 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. They're not those Lions anymore. Right now, they're a good team, and I don't think I haven't watched a lot of Lions games where they're not playing the Packers. I watched a little of it, and their coach is he's kind of, I hate to say it, but he's kind of pretty good. I mean, he likes to go for it on fourth down. He's a psychopath. But I think the players have really bought in to him. And either way, so I guess that's what I'm saying is people don't know who the Lions are if they think the Packers are garbage. And I think that's, you know that, and I know that. And am I happy about the Lions being who they are currently? No. I want them to go back to the old shitty Lions. Well, a little bit anyways. But either way, what else? I wanted to say something, but what was it? Oh, yeah. Maybe if we want to get the refs on our side, we shouldn't try to take them out of the game. That was the craziest thing. That was like a truck running over like a cat. The truck didn't know the cat was there, but the cat sure as hell knew the truck was there. Go back, go. Rico out.
Yeah, I mean, look, Vegas had us as the underdogs in that game. You know what that means? That means we were expected to lose. You're upset because you expected the Packers to win. You were upset about that. Your expectation was the Packers win. That's very obvious. If that wasn't your expectation, then you wouldn't be having a meltdown about it. Which means your expectations are a little bit too high. That's all. If you want to expect the Packers to win this game, that's fine. You can be upset because they're expected to win, not by a ton, but they are favorites in this game by a little bit. But if you're expecting the team to win against teams that are better, with a better record, and they're home, where Vegas is saying that the Lions are going to win the game, and your stance on it is, if we don't win this game, then we're a bad team, you're just doing it wrong. And I have a feeling you're doing it wrong on purpose, not because it's rational, but because you're, I don't know, just not happy and want to just say mean stuff about the team because they didn't bring you the happiness that you require. Why don't we leave it at that? It's game time. I have to do Packernet After Dark, but you, I'm sure, already listened to that. So have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.